The room was silent. So silent that even the soft hum of the wall clock sounded loud. On the massive black leather bed, Dario Vexley, the youngest billionaire mafia boss in the city, lay perfectly still. His chest rose slowly. His eyes were closed. His face looked calm. He looked asleep. But he wasn't. Inside his mind, everything was sharp and awake. His fingers rested loosely beside him, only inches away from the hidden panic button under the mattress. His breathing was slow, controlled, practiced. Then, a small hand moved toward the open steel safe. Dario felt it before he saw it. The soft scrape of skin against cold metal. The door of the safe was open. Bundles of cash sat inside. Gold bars. A small velvet box. And standing there, right in front of it, was a boy. A thin boy. Bare feet. Torn slippers. His school shirt was too big, sleeves hanging past his wrists. The maid's son. Dario's jaw tightened. So, this is who you really are, he thought. The boy's hand hovered over the money. Just one move. One touch. That was all it would take. Dario was ready. Ready to open his eyes. Ready to end the test. Ready to learn the truth. But then, the boy did something that made Dario's blood turn cold. The boy stepped back. His hand dropped to his side. He looked at the money, then at Dario's sleeping face. And he whispered something so soft, so unexpected, that Dario felt his heart stop. Time froze. And in that frozen moment, Dario realized something was very wrong. But before you find out what the boy whispered. Quick question. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your country in the comments. And if you love powerful billionaire stories like this, stay till the end. 3 days earlier, the Vexley estate sat on top of a hill like a king watching over the city. Tall iron gates. Black marble floors. Cameras in every corner. Everyone in the city knew one rule. You never steal from Dario Vexley. At just 29 years old, Dario controlled banks, shipping ports, nightclubs, and secrets. People twice his age bowed when he walked past. But inside that giant house, there was one woman who never bowed. Her name was Elena Mora. She was the maid. She cleaned the floors. She washed the windows. She cooked the meals. And every morning she brought her son with her. His name was Luca. Luca was 10 years old. Quiet. Polite. Always looking at the floor. He never touched anything. Never spoke unless spoken to. Never asked questions. But Dario noticed him. Dario noticed everything. It started small. A watch went missing from Dario's desk. Then a gold pen. Nothing big. Nothing important. But in Dario's world, small things meant big problems. He reviewed the security footage. Nothing. No guards. No guests. Only staff. And one boy, who walked freely around the house. Dario leaned back in his chair, eyes dark. Bring me the maid's schedule, he said calmly. The guards obeyed without a word. Later that night, Dario stood alone in his bedroom, staring at the open safe. He didn't lock it. On purpose. A dangerous smile crossed his face. If someone wants to steal from me, he whispered, let's see who has the courage. The next morning, Elena arrived with Luca as usual. She didn't know her son was being watched. She didn't know the cameras had been adjusted. She didn't know her boy was walking straight into a test designed by a man who destroyed lives for fun. Dario watched Luca from the security room. The boy sat quietly in the corner while his mother cleaned. Then Elena was called away. Just for a moment. The room emptied. Luca stood alone. Dario's fingers tapped the desk. Let's see, he muttered. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then, Luca slowly stood up. Dario leaned forward. The boy walked toward the bedroom. Toward the safe. And Dario smiled. Got you. That night, Dario left the safe open again. This time he lay on the bed. Still. Silent. Pretending to sleep. Every muscle in his body was ready. The door creaked. Soft footsteps. Bare feet on cold marble. Luca entered the room. Dario felt a rush of anger. A thief, just like the rest, he thought. The boy stopped near the bed. He stared at Dario's face for a long moment. Then he turned. Toward the safe. This was it. This was the moment. The truth always came out when people thought no one was watching. Luca stepped closer. The safe door stood wide open. Money inside. More money than Luca had ever seen in his life. Enough to change everything. Enough to save his sick mother. Enough to end his hunger forever. Dario waited. His heart pounded. Then, the boy reached out. And that's when everything changed. Luca's fingers shook. He stopped. He swallowed hard. Then he stepped back. Dario's eyes twitched beneath his lids. Why did he stop? Luca looked at the money again. Then at Dario. Then he whispered. A sentence so pure, so painful, that Dario felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not fear of danger. Fear of truth. And at that exact moment, Dario knew this test was no longer under his control. What did the boy whisper? Why did it shake a ruthless billionaire to his core? And what secret was Luca hiding that Dario was not ready to face? Subscribe to this channel to support our GR. Dario Vexley did not move. He did not breathe faster. He did not open his eyes. But inside his chest, his heart was beating so hard it hurt. Because the boy had whispered, I won't touch it, even if we are starving. The words were soft, almost like a prayer. Luca stood still in front of the open safe. His hands were clenched into small fists. His eyes were wet, but no tears fell. Dario felt frozen. No one had ever spoken like that in his house. Not the guards. Not the business partners. Not even the people who feared him. The boy turned away from the safe. He walked toward the bed. Dario felt a sudden danger, not to his money but to his secret. Luca stood right beside him now. Close enough that Dario could feel the warmth of the boy's breath. Close enough that one wrong move would reveal everything. Luca leaned closer. Very slowly. And then, he placed something on the table beside the bed. Dario almost opened his eyes. What did he put there? The boy stepped back. I'm sorry, Luca whispered. I just wanted to look. Then he turned and ran out of the room. The door closed softly behind him. Silence returned. Dario opened his eyes. For the first time in years, his hands were shaking. He sat up fast. His sharp eyes locked onto the bedside table. There, lying in plain sight, was a small gold watch. The same watch that had gone missing 3 days ago. Dario stared at it. His mind raced. He didn't steal it. He returned it. What? But before he could think further, a loud alarm suddenly rang out. Red lights flashed across the walls. One of the guards' voices shouted from the hallway. Boss. The kitchen. Something's wrong. Dario jumped to his feet. He grabbed the watch and ran. Smoke filled the air. Pots were scattered on the floor. Elena, the maid, stood frozen near the sink, her hands shaking. And Luca. Luca was on the floor, unmoving. A broken glass bowl lay beside him. Dario's eyes widened. What happened? He demanded. Elena dropped to her knees beside her son. He collapsed, she cried. He hasn't eaten all day. He said he felt dizzy. Dario felt a strange pain twist inside him. The boy who refused to steal, the boy who returned the watch, was lying there weak and pale. Call the doctor. Dario snapped. The guards rushed to obey. Dario knelt down slowly. He had never knelt for anyone. Luca's eyes fluttered open. He looked straight at Dario. And then, he smiled. A small, tired smile. You're awake, Luca whispered. Dario froze again. He knew. Elena gasped. What do you mean, awake? Luca swallowed hard. I heard your breathing, he said softly. It was too careful. Dario felt exposed. No one had ever seen through him before. Not even his enemies. The doctor arrived quickly. Luca was lifted onto a stretcher. As they carried him away, Luca's fingers brushed Dario's sleeve. He whispered one last thing. I didn't take it. I was just keeping it safe. Dario stood there, unable to move. The watch felt heavy in his hand. He suddenly realized something terrifying. This was no ordinary boy. And this was no ordinary test. Why was Luca starving? Why was he hiding the watch? And what would happen when Dario finally decided to tell the truth? Subscribe to this channel to support our grow. WT. The ambulance sirens faded into the distance, leaving the Vexley estate eerily quiet. Dario Vexley stood alone in the bedroom. His eyes were fixed on the small gold watch in his hand. He turned it over slowly as if examining every scratch, every tiny detail, trying to understand why it carried more weight than all the money in his safe. He remembered Luca's words. I was just keeping it safe. And for the first time in years, Dario felt doubt, fear even, toward his own instincts. He sat on the edge of the massive bed, his mind racing. Was this boy honest? Or was he playing a game Dario didn't understand yet? Dario had tested many people in his life. Spies, thieves, rivals, even family. He had traps, secrets, and cameras everywhere. No one had ever passed the test without a single misstep, until now. And now the boy had not only passed, it seemed he had seen through him. The next morning, Dario summoned Elena into the study. She entered, carrying a tray of tea, her hands shaking slightly. She avoided eye contact. Dario didn't greet her. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. Elena, he began slowly, I need to know everything about Luca. Elena froze. She had expected reprimands for her son, not this tone. I don't understand, sir, she said softly. I know he didn't touch the money. I know he returned the watch. But there is more, isn't there? Something you aren't telling me? Elena swallowed hard. She hesitated, then whispered. He's been hiding something. Something dangerous. Dario leaned forward sharply. Dangerous? Yes, Elena said. Her voice trembled. He doesn't just survive, sir. He protects. He watches. Her eyes darted around the room, suddenly nervous. He watches people he shouldn't, even you. Dario's heart skipped a beat. He had built an empire on fear, on control, on being untouchable. And now a 10-year-old boy, the son of a maid, might know more than he did. Later that night, Dario returned to the bedroom. The safe was closed, the gold locked away. He sat in the chair thinking. Suddenly, a faint sound reached him. Footsteps. Soft. Bare. He froze. The security cameras showed nothing. And then Luca appeared in the doorway. He was holding a small folded piece of paper. His eyes met Dario's with calm confidence, almost challenging. You left this here, Luca said, handing the note to Dario. Dario unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was tiny, precise. Read. I know what you are planning. I know your traps. But I will not be part of them. I choose to watch, not take. Dario's blood ran cold. A 10-year-old boy was telling him he had been observed, tested, and judged, and that Dario's own plans could no longer be hidden. For the first time, Dario felt vulnerable. He wanted to shout, to demand answers, to grab Luca and shake him until the truth spilled. But Luca did not flinch. He just looked at Dario. Calm, steady, unafraid. And in that moment, Dario realized something terrifying. This was not a child who could be tested. This was a child who could test him. What secret does Luca know? Why is he observing Dario so carefully? And how far will this young boy go to protect himself and his mother? Subscribe to this channel to support OU. Our growth. Dario Vexley could feel his mind spinning faster than a speeding train. A 10-year-old boy, Luca Mora, was not just innocent or clever. He was dangerous in ways Dario could not yet understand. Dario knew his own rules. Anyone who knew too much could be a threat. And right now, Luca had just proven that he knew more than anyone should. That night, Dario did something he had not done in years. He stayed awake. Not in bed, not in comfort, but in full alert mode. He moved silently through the mansion, checking every camera, every hallway, every corner. And then he saw it. A shadow. Small. Moving in the kitchen. Dario crept closer, heart pounding. It was Luca. But he wasn't sneaking for money. He was standing in front of the fridge, pulling out a small notebook. A notebook Dario had never seen before. Luca flipped through it quickly. Scribbles. Drawings. Numbers. Symbols. Dario's fingers itched. He wanted to grab the notebook. To tear it apart. To understand. But he didn't. Instead he watched. Silently. And then Luca spoke. I know you're awake, the boy whispered, not turning around. Dario froze. How do you know? He asked. His voice low, almost a growl. I can hear your breathing, Luca said simply. It's different when someone is pretending to sleep. Dario felt a chill. This boy, he can see everything. He can hear everything. He can read me. The next morning, Dario called Elena. Where is he? He asked. He's in his room, sir, she said nervously. He hasn't eaten yet. He said he needed time to think. Dario hesitated. Something about the boy made him pause. He walked down the hall quietly, stepping lightly on the polished marble floor. He opened Luca's door slowly. The boy was sitting on the floor, legs crossed, notebook in his lap. Why are you doing this? Dario asked. His tone was unusual. Curious. Almost human. Luca looked up calmly. Doing what? Testing me. Watching me. Knowing everything I do. Why? Luca paused. He tapped the notebook. I want to know the truth about you, he said simply. If you're the man everyone says you are, or if you can be better. Dario felt something strange twist in his chest. Pride. Confusion. Fear. All at once he realized, this child was not afraid. And he was judging Dario, accurately. Dario turned to leave. Then he noticed something on the notebook page. A small sketch of the mansion. Every hallway. Every camera. Every trap Dario had built over the years. And in red, a single mark, a place only Dario knew to be secret. How did you? Dario started. Luca looked up, calm as ever. I watch. I listen. I remember, he said. You think you hide things, but you never hide everything. Dario felt his throat tighten. This was no longer a simple test. It was a trap, and he was the one caught inside. What is the secret spot in the mansion that only Dario knows? How did Luca discover it? And what will Dario do when he realizes this child might be more clever than anyone in his empire? Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Dario Vexley's mind raced as he stared at the page in Luca's notebook. The small sketch of the mansion was accurate down to the tiniest detail. Every hallway, every camera, even the hidden passage behind the library shelves. Everything. And then the red mark. A place only he knew existed. It was the old wine cellar. Locked for decades. A place he used to hide sensitive documents, cash, and occasionally, secrets that could destroy people. No one had ever been in there. He turned to Luca, eyes sharp. How do you know about this place? Luca tilted his head, eyes calm, almost proud. I saw a shadow once, he said. And I remembered. I asked questions. I listened. Secrets leave traces. Dario felt a shiver down his spine. He had faced assassins, spies, even other mafia bosses, but this boy, a 10-year-old, had quietly observed everything. Dario knew he had to act. He couldn't let Luca roam freely in the mansion with this knowledge. But before he could decide, Luca spoke again. You won't find the rest of the truth in the safe, sir. What do you mean? Dario snapped. Luca opened his notebook. On the next page was a map of the wine cellar, but not just the cellar. There were tiny notes beside each hiding place. Times, codes, even guards' patterns. Dario's blood ran cold. The boy had been planning for this moment longer than I realized. Before Dario could move, Luca looked up at him with something he hadn't shown before. A warning. Some secrets are dangerous. You shouldn't go alone. Dario's instinct screamed. He had survived countless dangers, but this felt different. This was not a test. This was a challenge. And Dario had no idea what would be waiting for him in the wine cellar. That evening, Dario armed himself with gloves and a flashlight. He moved through the darkened halls quietly, every step measured. The mansion felt different at night, ominous, almost alive. He reached the library. Behind the shelves, the hidden door swung open silently. The staircase spiraled down into darkness. The air grew colder as he descended. Dust and the faint smell of old wine filled his nostrils. Dario's flashlight swept over old barrels, cobwebs, and forgotten crates. He stopped at the first hiding spot Luca had marked. It was empty. Dario frowned. Perhaps it was a test, he thought. The boy wanted me to think I'd find something. He moved to the next spot. A small safe built into the wall. He touched it, cold metal. But before he could open it, a sound stopped him. A soft, almost playful laugh echoed through the cellar. Dario spun around. And there, emerging from the shadows, was Luca. You came, the boy said. His voice was calm, almost teasing. Dario froze. How are you here? I told you, Luca said, stepping closer. I watch. I listen. I remember. And I move when no one expects it. Dario's mind reeled. He had set traps, cameras, alarms. Nothing had detected Luca's movements. But then Luca whispered something that twisted Dario's gut. The cellar isn't empty. But it's not yours either. You're not the only one hiding secrets down here. Dario's heart stopped. What do you mean, not mine? Luca stepped aside, pointing toward a dark corner of the cellar. And in that corner, Dario's flashlight caught a figure lying motionless. A person he thought he'd lost years ago. Someone he never expected to see again. The blood in Dario's veins froze. It was someone who could ruin everything. And Luca had led him straight to it. Who was lying in the shadows of the wine cellar? Why is Luca showing Dario this person? And how will Dario survive a threat he never expected from someone he thought was under his control? Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Dario's flashlight trembled in his hand. His eyes locked on the figure in the corner of the wine cellar. The person was slumped against the wall, half covered by a dusty tarp. At first, Dario's heart screamed fear, suspicion, rage. Who is this? He thought. How did they get here? And why is Luca showing me this? He took a cautious step forward. The figure stirred. A weak groan escaped. Dario froze. It's him. Slowly the tarp slipped to the floor. It was Victor Marlowe, Dario's former mentor and the man who had betrayed him years ago. The man he thought dead after a violent mafia clash that had left Dario in power. Victor's face was pale, his eyes barely open. Bruises and cuts covered his cheeks. "You," Dario whispered, rage and disbelief colliding inside him. Victor coughed, spitting out blood. "Dario," he rasped. "You don't know everything?" Dario's fists clenched. "You're supposed to be dead," he growled. How are you alive?" Before Victor could answer, Luca stepped forward, notebook in hand. "You didn't find him by accident," Luca said quietly. "He's been here a long time. Waiting. Planning. Like I am." Dario's mind whirled. "The boy is not just observing me, he knows more than anyone." Luca continued, calm and chilling. "I wanted you to see him. To know that your empire is not as safe as you think." Dario's eyes narrowed. "And you, why are you helping him?" Luca smiled faintly. "I'm not helping him. I'm helping the truth come out." Dario felt an icy fear creep into his chest. He had survived assassination attempts, betrayals within betrayals, but nothing had ever prepared him for this. A child leading him into the lair of his own worst enemy. Victor weakly lifted a hand toward Dario. "You think you're in control, but there's more?" And before Dario could respond, Victor's eyes rolled back, and he slumped unconscious again. Dario looked at Luca, furious. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Luca said softly. "He's been here longer than you think. He wanted to wait for the right moment to wake you." Dario's mind raced. This was bigger than he imagined. The wine cellar was no longer just a place for secrets. It was a stage for betrayal, revenge, and tests that even he couldn't predict. Dario knelt beside Victor, checking if he was alive. The man's pulse was weak but steady. Dario's mind was spinning. How had Victor survived all these years? Who had hidden him here? And why now? Then Luca stepped closer again, holding his notebook. "There's more," he said, flipping a page. Dario glanced at it and saw cryptic symbols and numbers, a code he didn't recognize immediately. "What is this?" he demanded. "It's a map," Luca said quietly. "Of all your operations, your money movements, your safe houses. Victor left it here before he disappeared. He wanted it to be found by someone worthy." Dario's eyes widened. "Worthy? You're telling me this 10-year-old boy and a supposedly dying man orchestrated this?" he whispered, disbelief twisting his voice. Luca nodded. "I watched everything. I learned everything. The empire you built, it's fragile. And secrets, when hidden too long, can destroy even the strongest." Dario clenched his fists. Rage, admiration, fear, all mixing together. But then a sound echoed in the cellar. A metallic click. The hidden door behind the wine barrels swung open. And standing there was someone else. Dario froze. A shadow stretched across the floor. A familiar silhouette, but not anyone he expected. The voice that came next sent a chill down his spine. "You've been very busy, Dario. But you missed something very important." Dario's heart stopped. Another player in this game? The mansion, the empire, the traps. All of it was now a maze of secrets, lies, and unseen enemies. Luca glanced at Dario, calm as ever. "Sir, it begins. Who has entered the wine cellar? What important secret did Dario miss? And how will he survive a hidden threat he never expected?" Subscribe to this channel to support our grow. The shadow stepped fully into the light, revealing a tall, sharp-featured woman dressed in black. Her eyes glinted with intelligence and danger. "Dario Vexley," she said, her voice smooth but deadly. "We meet at last." Dario froze. He knew that voice. "Isabella Marlowe," he spat, his anger barely contained. You were supposed to be in Paris. Why are you here?" She smiled faintly, almost cruelly. "I never left, Dario. I've been watching, waiting. Your empire is impressive, but fragile." Luca stepped back slightly, watching both adults carefully. He didn't flinch. He wasn't afraid. Isabella's gaze shifted to Luca. "And this little one? Clever, isn't he?" Dario felt his chest tighten. Isabella had always been clever, ruthless, and completely unpredictable. And now she was here in his wine cellar, standing between him and his secrets. "You shouldn't be here," Dario growled. "Leave while you still can." Isabella laughed softly. "Oh, I'm not here to leave, Dario. I'm here because you missed something. Something that could destroy you, if you're not careful." Victor stirred weakly behind Dario, groaning. "And I see you've already met Luca," Isabella said, turning her gaze back to the boy. "A very sharp one. But sharp enough to survive what's coming? We'll see." Dario's fists clenched. He realized one thing. His empire, his plans, and even his own control were now being questioned by a 10-year-old boy and the two people he had once trusted the most. Isabella stepped closer. Listen carefully, Dario. Victor and we hid this empire's most dangerous secrets here. But there is someone inside your organization, someone who wants to see it fall. Dario's heart raced. He had considered betrayal before, but not like this. You mean, someone close to me? He asked, voice tight. Isabella nodded. Someone who watches. Someone who waits. Someone who will betray you at the first sign of weakness. Luca tilted his head, absorbing every word. Dario's mind reeled. Mole? In my own empire? Suddenly, the hidden camera screens in the wine cellar flickered to life. Security footage rolled, showing guards, staff, and even business partners moving in ways that seemed suspicious. And then one frame froze on a familiar face. His personal assistant, Matteo. Dario's jaw tightened. Matteo had been with him for years, trusted him, handled sensitive documents, and yet here he was, captured on tape whispering with outsiders. Before Dario could react, Isabella whispered, "Be careful. This is bigger than just money. Someone is playing a game you don't understand, and they've been setting traps longer than you think." Dario's eyes narrowed. Rage and fear collided inside him. Luca, however, smiled faintly. "Sir, I think I know how to handle this. But it will be risky." Dario's instinct screamed. Risky? With a 10-year-old? The following day, Dario called Matteo into the study. His tone was calm, but ice ran through every word. "Matteo," he began. "Sit down." Matteo obeyed immediately, though sweat began forming on his forehead. Dario didn't waste words. "I know you've been talking to people outside this estate. People who want to take everything from me." Matteo's face paled. I don't know what you mean." "Don't lie to me," Dario growled. "I saw the footage. The meetings. The whispers. You've betrayed me." Matteo faltered. "Sir, it's not like that." Before he could finish, Luca stepped forward. "I can prove it," Luca said calmly, flipping open his notebook. Inside were detailed logs of Matteo's movements, all recorded with uncanny precision. Every whispered conversation, every secret meeting. Everything was in Luca's handwriting and sketches. Dario's blood ran cold. He had trusted Matteo for years. And now, a child had caught him in the act. Matteo's face went white. This isn't possible." Dario didn't answer. He just stared. Rage boiled in his veins. Betrayal stung more than any physical pain he had ever felt. Luca closed the notebook calmly. "Sir, he's dangerous. And so is the Empire if we leave him unchecked." Dario knew Luca was right. But something inside him hesitated. A 10-year-old? Could he really trust him to handle this? Dario, Luca, and Isabella gathered in the hidden office beneath the wine cellar. Victor was weak but conscious, watching the three of them like a hawk. Isabella laid out the plan. "We need to flush out the mole completely. And it's not just Matteo. There may be others." Dario felt tension knotting his chest. He had fought enemies, rival mafia bosses, and even government agents, but this felt like a chess game he was just learning to play. Luca leaned over the map. "Sir, there's a way to catch everyone in one move," he said quietly. "But it requires risking the Empire, and trusting me." Dario's eyebrows shot up. "A 10-year-old is going to risk everything?" Luca met his gaze calmly. "I've already been risking everything since the moment I stepped in here. You just didn't notice." Victor groaned weakly. "He's right, Dario, the boy is the key." And then Isabella dropped the twist. "The mole isn't just Matteo. Someone close to both of you has been manipulating everything from behind the scenes, for years." Dario's mind reeled. Betrayal layered on betrayal. Secrets layered on secrets. And now, a game he didn't know he was playing had just become deadly. Luca folded the notebook. "Sir, are you ready?" Dario swallowed hard. "I have no choice. Let's see who really wants this empire, and who will die trying to take it. Who is the hidden manipulator controlling events from behind the scenes? Will Dario trust Luca to help expose the mole? And how will Matteo's betrayal change everything? Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Dario Vexley sat in the hidden office beneath the wine cellar, staring at the map Luca had laid out. Every hallway, every safe, every hidden camera was meticulously marked. The betrayal of Matteo stung, but Isabella's words about someone else echoed louder in his mind. "Who else?" Dario demanded. Luca's eyes flicked toward the shadows where Victor lay. "Someone even closer, sir. Someone who's been in your trust circle longer than Matteo." Someone you would never suspect. Dario's heart pounded. Longer than Matteo? Someone I've trusted? Isabella stepped forward, calm and dangerous. It's time you look at the cameras, Dario. You need to see everything. Screens flickered to life. Footage from months ago appeared. Meetings with advisors, late-night whispers in the corridors, secret exchanges of envelopes. Dario leaned in, heart racing. And then he saw her. Serena Vexley, his personal strategist, someone he considered loyal, the woman who advised him on every decision, every deal. She smiled in the footage as she handed sensitive files to unknown men. Dario's chest tightened. The woman who had been his right hand was secretly orchestrating the Empire's sabotage. Luca's calm voice cut through his shock. She's the one manipulating events, sir. Not just Matteo, she's been playing everyone. Dario's mind raced. She's been inside my empire the whole time, controlling moves, making sure I never saw it coming. He clenched his fists. Rage and fear collided. The empire he had built, every trap he had set, every test he had designed, all potentially compromised by someone he trusted most. Dario took a deep breath. He had no choice, he needed to act, but carefully. One wrong move and the empire would collapse. I'll need you to help me, Dario said to Luca. The boy nodded calmly. I'm ready, sir. But we have to be clever. She watches everything. Victor groaned weakly. Trust the boy, he sees more than you must. Isabella outlined a plan. They would stage a false operation, a fake transfer of money, designed to tempt Serena into revealing herself. Every guard, every camera, every security system would be monitored. Dario felt a flicker of fear. This was a dangerous gamble. One wrong move and Serena would know they were onto her. The next day, Luca observed from the shadows. He moved silently through the mansion, checking cameras, doors, and hallways. Every detail mattered. Every moment counted. That evening, Dario and Isabella set the trap. Matteo, unaware that his exposure was only the beginning, was kept close but restrained. And Serena, she took the bait. Serena entered the private office late at night, moving as if she owned the place, which she did. She thought she was untouchable. But Luca was already there, perched on the balcony overlooking the office. His eyes tracked every movement. Dario and Isabella waited nearby, hidden. Serena reached for the sensitive files, a plan to move millions to an offshore account. And then click. The lights snapped on. Dario stepped into the room, cold and commanding. Serena, he said, voice sharp as a blade. You've been playing me. Serena froze. Rage flashed across her face. Dario, you're insane. Luca stepped down, holding the notebook. It's all recorded, he said softly. Every move, every whisper, every secret of Serena's betrayal was logged. Victor, weak but alert, leaned forward. I told you, she would come for everything. Serena's eyes darted around. The cameras, the files, Luca's calm gaze, and finally Dario's. You think you're in control, she spat, venom dripping from every word. But you don't even know what's coming next. Dario's jaw tightened. Rage and fear mixed into a cold resolve. He knew the next move could determine the fate of his empire, and everyone in it. Just as Dario took a step toward Serena, a loud crash echoed from the mansion above. The floor trembled. Lights flickered. Alarms blared. Dario's blood ran cold. This wasn't part of the plan. Victor groaned. They know, they've been waiting. Luca's eyes widened. Sir, it's not Serena acting alone. Dario's mind raced. If it wasn't Serena, then who? And then Isabella whispered something that froze him completely. The person who's been manipulating everything isn't just inside the mansion. They're already inside the estate with access to every exit. They've been watching us the whole time, and they've known we were setting the trap. Dario's pulse quickened. The empire he thought he controlled was now a battlefield he didn't understand. Every move, every trap, every strategy might be a trap for him instead. And Luca, calm but tense, added, Sir, they're testing us now. And this time it's not about money. It's about survival. The shadows of the wine cellar seemed to grow darker. Dario's fists clenched. Rage, fear, and determination collided inside him. This game isn't over. Not by a long shot. Who is the hidden enemy inside the estate? Will Dario and Luca survive the trap that Serena has set in motion? And how far will this hidden manipulator go to destroy everything Dario has buoyed? Subscribe to this channel to support our grow. WT. The alarms echoed through the Vexley estate. Red lights flashed across the walls. Dario Vexley's hands clenched. Every instinct screamed danger. Matteo's betrayal, Serena's scheming, Victor's secrets, Luca's cunning, it all collided into one impossible moment. Who's doing this? Dario growled, moving through the mansion with Luca at his side. Isabella followed silently, eyes sharp. Not who, Dario, what? It's someone who doesn't want to be seen. Someone controlling everything behind the scenes. Luca's eyes narrowed. Sir, it's not just one person. It's a network. Someone has infiltrated every level of your empire. They're testing you, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Dario froze. His empire, everything he had built, was now under siege from an enemy he couldn't see and couldn't anticipate. Footsteps echoed from above. Dario motioned for Luca and Isabella to follow him. He reached the top floor and saw it. The security room was empty. All the cameras were gone. Screens blank. Impossible, Dario muttered. Then a text alert pinged on his phone. No sender. No number. Just a single message. Check your past. The one you trusted most is the key. Dario's heart stopped. He knew instantly who it referred to. Matteo. Serena. Or someone else he had never suspected. And in the shadows a quiet laugh echoed, low, chilling, and familiar. Dario's pulse raced. He moved carefully, every step measured. Luca stayed close, notebook in hand, recording every detail. Suddenly, a hidden door behind the library swung open. A figure emerged. It was Elena, Luca's mother. But her eyes were cold. Not frightened, not pleading, but sharp. Calculated. Mother? Luca whispered, shocked. Dario's mind reeled. Elena had been the quiet maid. The gentle caretaker. Always loyal, always obedient. But now, she was part of the network. The one orchestrating the chaos, guiding Serena, maybe even controlling Matteo. Elena, what is this? Dario demanded. Elena smiled faintly. You didn't think I would just watch, did you, Dario? I've been protecting Luca, but also shaping the future. This empire isn't safe in your hands. Dario's fists clenched. Betrayal layered on betrayal. His own employee, his own mother figure, and now his mafia empire under threat. Luca's face went pale. Mother, why? Elena stepped closer. Because someone has to guide him. Someone has to ensure he survives the tests, even if it means teaching you a lesson in the process. Dario's mind raced. Every move I thought I controlled, every trap I set, has been anticipated. This empire is not mine to control anymore. A shadow moved behind Elena. A figure stepped out of the darkness. And now Dario realized, the network wasn't just inside the estate, it extended beyond the city, beyond the empire, beyond even him. Luca's eyes met Dario's. Calm. Determined. Knowing. Sir, we need to be ready, Luca whispered. Because this game is far from over. Elena is revealed as part of the secret network. The enemy is no longer just inside the mansion, it's far larger and more dangerous. Luca and Dario now face a multi-layered conspiracy that could destroy everything. Dario Vexley sat in the hidden office, heart still pounding from Elena's revelation. Luca flipped through his notebook, his eyes scanning every detail. Sir, the network isn't just Elena and Serena, he said calmly. Dario frowned. What do you mean? Luca pointed to sketches of guards, staff, and even kitchen workers. Tiny symbols marked certain individuals. These people have been communicating secretly for months. Coordinating with someone outside the mansion. Someone very powerful. Dario felt a chill. The empire he thought he controlled was now being orchestrated from multiple directions. That means, Dario's voice shook. Even some of my most loyal staff are part of this? Yes, sir, Luca said. And they trust each other more than they trust you. Dario clenched his fists. Every hallway, every safe, every secret trap he had built, he realized it had already been anticipated by the network. Then Luca revealed a shocking detail. The alliances are layered. Some are working for Elena, some for Serena, and some for a completely unknown player. Whoever they are, they're manipulating events to force us into a single, predictable path. Dario's teeth clenched. And they think they can outsmart me? Luca smiled faintly. They already have, to a degree. But we're learning. Later that night, Dario received an unexpected visitor. It was his younger cousin, Adrian Vexley, someone he had trusted implicitly. Adrian had managed one of the smaller branches of the empire, a position Dario had personally appointed him to. I need to speak with you, Dario, Adrian said, eyes darting nervously. It's about the mansion, the network. Dario narrowed his eyes. Go on. Adrian hesitated, then whispered, I've been approached, by Serena. She promised me control of the empire if I helped her. She said you were losing your edge. Dario's jaw tightened. Family betrayal cut deeper than any enemy's attack. And you? Adrian's hands shook. I didn't agree. But they know things about me, they can ruin me if I refuse completely. Dario felt the weight of the empire pressing down on him. A cousin, a family member, ready to betray him if pushed. Luca placed a hand on Dario's shoulder. Sir, this is why we must act carefully. Every ally could be an enemy and every enemy could be a trap. Dario nodded slowly. Rage and strategy warred within him. The empire was bleeding from the inside, and he needed to stop it before it collapsed entirely. Victor, weak but lucid, called Dario aside. His voice was rough from months of hiding. You need to know the truth, about me, and Elena, Victor said. Dario's eyes narrowed. What truth? Victor leaned closer. Years ago I made a deal, a dangerous one. Elena and we promised each other to protect the next generation of the Vexley bloodline. But we also set rules you never knew. Dario's pulse quickened. Rules? What rules? Rules that control the empire from the shadows. If you break them, everything falls. The network, the alliances, they're all part of the plan to enforce those rules. Luca was never meant to just survive, he's meant to inherit, properly. Dario felt a sudden cold realization. Luca wasn't just clever, he's part of a long-term plan, designed by my own mentor and Elena. Victor continued, but there's a danger. If Serena or anyone else breaks these rules, the consequences will destroy the empire entirely. You must stop them, but do it without breaking the legacy. Dario's mind reeled. Legacy, inheritance, rules I never knew existed. Later that evening, Elena called Luca to her private quarters. Dario and Isabella followed silently from the shadows. Luca, Elena said softly, eyes piercing. I need to know, how far are you willing to go to protect this empire? The boy looked at her, calm but determined. Whatever it takes, mother. Elena's face hardened. Even if it means hurting someone you care about? Luca's eyes narrowed. Even then. If it protects the people who depend on me, I will do it. Elena nodded faintly. Good. You must be ready. Because soon, choices will be forced upon you. Tests you didn't know existed, will determine the survival of everyone here. Dario watched silently, heart tightening. He realized the boy had just been given a moral weapon. Elena was preparing Luca not just for survival but for leadership, a leadership that could rival his own and maybe surpass it. And in that moment, Dario understood something chilling. The real game had only just begun. Matteo appeared in the main hall, looking worn but determined. His eyes flickered with intensity, but there was a hidden agenda. I know you think I betrayed you, Dario, he said slowly. But I've been playing both sides, to gather intelligence on someone far bigger than Serena or Elena. Dario narrowed his eyes. Someone bigger? Who? Matteo hesitated, then whispered. Adrian, he's not acting alone. There's someone even higher, someone pulling strings behind the entire empire. Dario's chest tightened. Betrayal after betrayal, now there's a hidden puppeteer above Adrian? Luca's eyes widened. Sir, if Matteo is telling the truth, every move we've made could be part of a bigger game. He's dangerous, but so is the enemy above Adrian. Dario's instinct screamed caution, but he had no choice. The empire, his life, and Luca's survival depended on acting carefully. Matteo may have his own secret agenda, leaving viewers questioning if he is truly loyal, or another layer of betrayal. Security footage and hidden notes revealed Adrian orchestrating chaos. But while Adrian was manipulating Serena, Elena, and Matteo, he was also being manipulated. The mastermind behind it all was a mysterious figure, never seen, known only as the Architect, controlling the syndicate Adrian had allied with. Dario's pulse raced. I thought Adrian was the enemy, but he's a pawn. Luca whispered, Sir. This Architect is clever. They've been controlling everyone for months, anticipating moves we haven't even thought of. Adrian isn't the ultimate villain. The Empire faces a shadow player with unknown motives, keeping the tension high. Adrian used the Architect's resources to leak fake incriminating evidence against Dario. Media erupted, illegal dealings, offshore accounts and corrupt deals. But here's the one: of the leaked stories was true, but planted years ago by Victor as a contingency. Dario realizes, not all lies are false, and the true enemy could exploit even his own past mistakes. Dario's empire teeters on the edge. Allies question loyalty. Guards hesitate. Business partners withdraw. Luca quietly whispers, "Sir, someone is using both our mistakes and our enemies against us. This is beyond ordinary betrayal. The scandal isn't just public humiliation, it's a strategic weapon by the architect to destabilize the empire psychologically and financially." Luca crafts a plan, a fake transfer of millions to lure Adrian into exposing the syndicate network. Luca intentionally feeds false information to the architect through coded leaks, creating a high-stakes game of misdirection. As Adrian moves to claim the fake transfer, hidden cameras and traps surround him. Dario whispers, "If this works, we expose the entire network." But just as Adrian steps into the trap, a second hidden player intervenes, someone no one suspected, one of Dario's oldest advisors who had secretly aligned with the architect. Even the traps aren't completely safe. Internal betrayal layers the danger, making the empire unstable even in victory. Adrian is trapped, but the mansion erupts in chaos. Hidden explosions set off alarms. Corridors are blocked by loyalists and infiltrators alike. Adrian smiles, revealing he had planted contingency plans in the fake transfer, giving the architect direct control over key areas. Dario realizes even victory isn't secure. Matteo steps forward, revealing he had anticipated Adrian's contingency, but his plan may endanger others. Luca quietly notes it in his notebook, aware that every ally might have hidden motives. Dario faces a chilling truth: betrayal isn't just external, it's woven into the fabric of the empire itself. With Adrian contained, Dario breathes a temporary sigh of relief, but the mansion's shadows seem alive. Elena reveals she allowed the chaos to test Luca's leadership skills, but she secretly aligned with the architect to see how far the boy could go. Victor whispers weakly, "The architect isn't just manipulating Adrian, they're shaping the entire future of the empire." Dario realizes the empire is on a knife's edge. Allies may betray, enemies lurk, and the architect's ultimate goal remains unknown. Luca, calm but perceptive, says, "Sir, this is only the beginning. The architect has been watching. Every move we make now determines survival or collapse. Matteo may have his own hidden motives. Adrian is revealed as a manipulator, but also a pawn of the architect. Public scandal destabilizes the empire, weaponizing past truths. Luca's plan exposes betrayal layers, but new threats emerge from within. Elena secretly aligns with the architect, testing Luca and Dario. The empire teeters on collapse. The architect remains unseen but omnipresent. The mansion was silent except for the hum of security monitors. Dario Vexley felt the weight of every betrayal pressing down on him. Matteo, Adrian, Elena, Serena, each had secrets. And yet, the true manipulator remained unseen, the architect. A message appeared on Dario's private screen. No name, just a chilling note. "Control is an illusion. Watch the boy. The empire's future rests in his hands." Dario's pulse quickened. The boy, Luca. Luca, calm as ever, glanced up from his notebook. "Sir, I've been waiting for this. The architect knows I've been observing everything. They're watching us, testing me." Dario realized the full implication. The architect wasn't just attacking the empire, they were evaluating Luca, using him as a pawn to determine who would ultimately inherit control. The tests the architect set up mirror what Dario himself would later replicate, pretending to sleep to observe and measure Luca's cleverness. Dario called a secret meeting in the hidden office beneath the wine cellar. Matteo, Victor, Isabella and Luca joined. "I know the architect is manipulating everything," Dario said. "But we need information. And we need to test loyalty. Every ally could betray and every enemy could strike. We need a strategy." Luca raised an eyebrow. "Sir, what if the test isn't just for others? What if the test is for me?" Dario paused, considering. "A test? Could it be, like the one I will need to perform?" Elena stepped closer. "The boy has already proven his intelligence and patience. But the real challenge is seeing if he can act under pressure, make moral choices and protect those he cares about." This foreshadows the central hook, the billionaire mafia pretending to sleep to see how Luca reacts, preparing viewers for the iconic frozen moment. Luca walked through the mansion silently, observing patterns. Guards moved predictably. Elena's moral test still weighed on him. Matteo's loyalty was uncertain. Adrian's contingency plans were partially exposed, but could still unleash chaos. He paused outside Dario's private suite. A plan formed in his mind, a clever maneuver that would demonstrate intelligence, courage and morality simultaneously. Luca's notebook revealed every contingency he had tracked, every trap he had predicted, and every ally he suspected. He realized, to survive the architect's game I have to act like I don't know, and then act decisively when it matters most. The boy's awareness mirrors the future scenario where Dario pretends to sleep, testing him. Luca is already anticipating a test he doesn't yet know fully exists. Dario watched Luca from the shadows, hidden behind a partially closed door. Victor's whispers echoed in his mind, "The boy is the key, the empire rests in his hands." Dario decided to conduct a personal test. 4 hours he appeared asleep in his private suite, watching Luca's reactions through subtle reflections in the polished floor and hidden mirrors. Every time Luca approached, hesitated, or acted, Dario analyzed his choices. Would he prioritize money or people? Would he confront betrayal directly or cleverly? Would he risk himself to protect the empire, or choose self-preservation? This is the moment that directly leads into the viral hook. The tension builds because Dario's hidden observation is undetectable, and Luca is being tested on every moral and strategic decision. Luca noticed something strange, a subtle reflection, a faint shadow, a pattern inconsistent with normal light. He approached Dario's suite carefully, avoiding the areas where the reflections hinted someone might be observing. He needed to make a decision: take the confidential files, attempt to protect Matteo, or leave without touching anything. Dario held his breath, remaining still. His eyes, barely visible in the darkness, followed every step. Luca paused. He stared at the sealed safe and the sleeping figure of Dario. Every instinct screamed, act decisively, but carefully. Then, with a sudden yet calm movement, Luca did the unexpected. He stopped completely, took a step back and turned away, leaving the files untouched. His eyes lingered for a moment, reflecting intelligence, morality, and strategy. Dario's heart froze, not from fear but from shock and admiration. The boy had passed the test without a word, without revealing he knew he was being observed. The viral hook moment is achieved naturally within the context of the multi-layered empire story, tying together Dario's hidden observation strategy, Luca's intelligence and moral decision-making, the foreshadowing of the architect's test, the culmination of previous betrayals, plots, and suspense. The room was silent. The mansion seemed to hold its breath. Dario finally whispered, almost to himself, "Luca, you've frozen me, and yet, proven everything I needed to know." Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. The mansion was silent, but Dario's mind was anything but. His chest still throbbed with adrenaline and his palms were damp. The boy, Luca, had just performed what could only be described as a masterstroke of intellect and moral fortitude. Dario had pretended to sleep, watching, analyzing, and waiting to see how Luca would react under pressure. Hours earlier the test had begun. Dario had positioned himself in his private suite, lying motionless on the bed. Every movement of the room, every reflection, every shadow was a potential indicator of Luca's decision-making. But what had happened next had froze Dario in astonishment. Luca had approached the safe, hesitated, examined his surroundings and then, without a word, stepped back. He had left the documents untouched, carefully avoiding anything that might compromise the empire. And yet, he had left a subtle clue, a note hidden in the drawer, that demonstrated his foresight and intelligence without revealing he knew he was being observed. Dario exhaled slowly, letting the moment settle in. "He froze me," he murmured under his breath. Not with fear but with respect, admiration, and a growing realization. The boy had passed a test that Dario himself had feared no one could ever pass. Elena appeared silently at the doorway, her presence almost ghost-like. She had been watching as well, observing both the test and the reactions it had elicited. "You tested him," she said softly, her voice calm yet edged with sharpness. "And he surprised you?" "Yes," Dario said, his voice low. He didn't just resist temptation. He anticipated every possible outcome. He thought first, acted second, and in doing so he preserved the integrity of the empire without even touching it. Elena nodded faintly. "He's learning faster than any of us expected. The architect's tests may have prepared him for this moment, but your method, this was a personal challenge. You wanted to see him, understand him, and he delivered." Dario's mind raced. The mansion was not safe. Every shadow could conceal a spy, every hallway a hidden enemy. Matteo's loyalty was uncertain, Adrian was plotting, Serena had her own schemes, and the architect remained unseen, a looming force controlling the chaos from the shadows. And yet, despite all this, Luca had proven himself. Dario realized that the boy's calm under pressure, his strategic foresight, and his moral clarity were the qualities needed to survive both the internal betrayals and the architect's manipulations. Luca returned quietly to the suite later that night, notebook clutched in his hands. His eyes, calm and steady, met Dario's. "Sir, I think I understand what you were testing me for," he said. "And I think I passed." Dario's lips tightened in a slow smile. "Yes, Luca. You passed, but this is only the beginning. The architect is still watching. And the next tests, they will be far more difficult." The architect's shadow was growing stronger. Subtle messages began appearing throughout the mansion, encrypted files, anonymous tips, and carefully crafted threats. Each one was a challenge, a puzzle, a test designed to see how Luca would act under stress, uncertainty, and moral pressure. Dario observed quietly, analyzing every step Luca took. Matteo, now cautiously loyal, whispered, "Sir, the boy's choices are not just clever, they're unpredictable. He anticipates, calculates, and acts strategically. No one has ever tested him like this, and yet he thrives." Luca moved with careful precision through the mansion, checking for patterns in the security system and noting subtle changes in staff behavior. He was aware of the architect's influence, even if he could not see the person behind it. Every encrypted message, every test, every subtle threat had forced him to anticipate outcomes beyond ordinary comprehension. Elena appeared silently, observing from the shadows. "You see," she said softly to Dario, "the boy is not just clever. He's learning the rules of this game. He understands the weight of every decision, and he knows that survival requires both morality and intelligence. The architect is no longer just an unseen manipulator. Every test, every subtle challenge, is now a layered examination of Luca's abilities, forcing him to act without tipping his hand, just as Dario observed in the pretend sleep scenario. The stakes are psychological as much as they are strategic." Dario leaned back, watching Luca carefully. "The test I started was just the beginning. And now, he's truly ready for the challenges ahead." Dario decided to escalate the test. He staged a second, more dangerous scenario. Confidential documents were left in the main office, with the door slightly ajar. Cameras and subtle reflections captured every angle. Luca entered cautiously, noting the faint reflections of light and the potential of being observed. Matteo's figure appeared in a hallway, but Luca did not react hastily. He analyzed, he anticipated, he calculated. Then, with a deliberate calmness, Luca made a decision that would freeze Dario again, but in an entirely different way. He stepped away from the documents entirely, leaving them untouched. But in doing so, he left a hidden note, strategically placed, that outlined a potential strategy to anticipate Adrian's next move and protect the Empire. Dario, hidden in shadows, felt a chill of awe. This is beyond obedience. This is intelligence. This is morality. This is leadership. Elena, standing silently, whispered, "He understands without being told. He moves with purpose." This is exactly what the architect hoped for. Luca's silent, calculated choice mirrors the iconic Hook moment. He acts without being seen, demonstrating foresight and moral clarity that completely surprises Dario, leaving him emotionally and mentally frozen. Dario finally stepped out of the shadows. His gaze was calm, but his pulse raced with a mixture of awe and relief. "Luca, you've done something incredible," he whispered. "You didn't just act, you thought ahead. You preserved the Empire without touching a thing. You froze me, and yet you proved everything I needed to know." Luca looked up, calm and collected. "Sir, I didn't act for approval. I acted to protect everyone, and to survive the tests." Dario's eyes lingered on the boy. The mansion had been a battlefield of manipulation, betrayal, and psychological warfare. And yet, Luca had emerged as someone capable of outthinking adults who had decades of experience. Elena appeared quietly, observing with her signature calm demeanor. "This was only the first step," she said. "The architect has set many tests. But the true challenge is not only survival. It is moral and strategic decision-making under extreme pressure. Luca, he's ready." Dario's realization reinforces the emotional core of the Hook. He is mentally frozen not out of fear, but out of stunned respect for Luca's intellect and morality. Silence settled over the mansion, but the tension remained palpable. Every shadow, every hallway, every staff member could conceal danger. Dario realized that the Empire's survival depended on Luca's ongoing strategic decisions, as well as the management of unpredictable threats like Adrian, Serena, and the unseen architect. Elena whispered softly to Dario, "The architect is still testing. Each move, each choice, each moral decision counts. The Empire teeters on the edge, and the next phase will be even more demanding. Luca observed quietly from the corner. His mind replayed the tests he had passed, each decision carefully weighed. He understood the stakes. Success meant protecting the Empire and those he cared about, failure could bring total collapse. Dario's voice was low, almost a whisper to himself. I tested him, and he froze me. But the real challenge, the real Empire test, is still ahead. And if he fails, everything falls. The hook moment is fully integrated into the story arc. Luca's calm, moral, strategic choice under Dario's hidden observation now serves as the cornerstone of the Empire's survival, setting up the final battles against the architect and internal betrayals. The mansion was quiet, but the shadows whispered of danger. The architect's influence was unseen but omnipresent. Dario and Luca prepared for the next phase, where morality, intelligence, and loyalty would be tested like never before. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. The mansion had been quiet for only a few hours when a new threat emerged. Lights flickered, alarms buzzed faintly, and encrypted messages appeared on Dario's private screen. Observe. Decide. Fail and the Empire falls. Dario's pulse quickened. The architect wasn't just testing Luca anymore. The architect was now testing Dario's own decisions in real time. Luca glanced at the screen, eyes sharp. Sir, these are coordinated. Every room, every hallway, even the smallest corridor has been rigged with challenges. The architect is watching us like a chessboard. This was no ordinary test. The architect had set a simultaneous, multi-layered challenge, forcing Luca to make decisions that could impact everyone in the mansion, including Dario. Matteo stepped forward, whispering, "We need a plan." The architect isn't just manipulating events, they're testing responses. Every move we make is anticipated. Dario clenched his fists. Then we act with precision. Luca, you lead the first phase. Show me your judgment under real pressure. Luca moved silently through the mansion, observing his allies and enemies. Hidden cameras, reflections in polished floors, and encrypted alarms created a web of constant observation. He found a packet of intelligence in the study, a series of confidential files containing the Empire's most sensitive secrets. But as he reached for them, he noticed a subtle trap. Removing the files would trigger an alert, exposing Dario and the rest. This was the architect's moral test. Take the files and protect the Empire's immediate interest, or leave them untouched to preserve safety, even if it meant short-term loss. Luca hesitated. His mind raced. Every choice has consequences. Every action is a test of intelligence, morality, and loyalty. Finally, he stepped back, leaving the files untouched, and instead left a hidden note with instructions to secure the information indirectly. This clever workaround demonstrated foresight, strategic thinking, and moral clarity, freezing Dario once again when he observed the boy from hidden reflections. Dario whispered, "He's done it again, without even touching anything, he's shown more judgment than I ever could have imagined." While Luca navigated the moral and strategic maze, Adrian took his next move. Using the architect's guidance, he manipulated Isabella into betraying Dario by threatening someone she cared about. Dario felt the sting of betrayal. Isabella, once loyal, now aligned with the architect, at least temporarily. Matteo intervened, revealing that Isabella's betrayal was only part of a larger plan. She had been instructed to mislead Adrian, creating the illusion of allegiance while secretly feeding critical intelligence back to Luca. The audience sees a double betrayal. Isabella appears disloyal, but her true loyalty is revealed subtly, keeping tension high. Dario realizes that even when appearances suggest chaos, Luca can navigate the complex web of deception. Dario muttered, "The architect is using emotions as weapons now. Every relationship is a test, and every betrayal is a lesson." The mansion had transformed into a battlefield of shadows, whispers, and anticipation. Luca now faced another test, an intricate puzzle of security protocols and hidden traps designed to force him to make a life-or-death decision. He could take immediate action to trap Adrian and risk being observed by the architect. Wait, gathering more information but risking exposure of critical secrets. Or attempt a deceptive maneuver that could backfire catastrophically. Luca thought carefully. Every choice is being watched. Every choice is part of the test. He chose the third option, a subtle misdirection. He left small, false clues for Adrian while securing the real data through hidden passages. His calm, calculated, and morally sound decision froze Dario again when he observed through hidden reflections. the boy had outthought everyone without confrontation. This mirrors the iconic hook, reinforcing the pattern of Luca acting under observation, outsmarting everyone while preserving moral integrity. The test reached its peak. Dario, observing from his hidden position, realized something profound. Luca wasn't just clever, he was a natural leader, capable of balancing morality, intelligence, and strategy under extreme pressure. Even Elena, watching quietly, whispered, "He's not just passing tests. He's learning to survive, to lead, and to protect the empire in ways no one else could." Matteo, seeing Luca's calm and precise actions, finally admitted, "Sir, I think the boy might be the only one capable of stopping the architect." Dario's eyes softened. He stepped out of the shadows, revealing himself to Luca. "You've frozen me, boy, not with fear but with awe. Your judgment, your courage, your restraint, it's extraordinary." Luca nodded quietly. "I only did what was necessary, sir. I acted to protect the people and the empire. That's all I could do." This chapter merges the emotional payoff of the viral hook with the larger empire narrative. Dario is frozen, the architect remains a looming threat, and the boy's abilities are now the focal point of the story. The mansion seemed to hold its breath. Every ally, every shadow, and every secret remained a potential threat. But for the first time, Dario realized, the empire's survival rested in the hands of the boy he had once doubted, and now he had complete faith in him. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. The mansion was unusually quiet, but the tension was suffocating. Dario and Luca moved through the corridors, every shadow and reflection hinting at hidden danger. Suddenly the encrypted messages stopped. Silence filled the air, too quiet to be safe. Then a voice, calm and chilling, echoed through the mansion. "Bravo, Dario. And bravo, Luca. Your little tests are impressive, but the real game begins now." Dario's pulse raced. "Show yourself," he demanded. The lights flickered, and a holographic projection appeared. A figure cloaked in shadows, identity hidden. The architect had revealed themselves, not physically but omnipresent, controlling cameras, systems, and traps throughout the mansion. Luca stepped forward, unflinching. "Sir, that's him. That's the one who's been orchestrating everything from the shadows. Every test, every betrayal, it's been him." The architect's reveal is psychological as well as strategic. He doesn't appear in person, but his omnipresence makes the tension palpable. The architect's voice continued, "I've been testing him," it said, nodding toward Luca's direction. "The boy has potential. But potential is nothing without courage, morality, and strategy. Prove yourself or everything collapses." Dario clenched his fists. "Then let's finish this. Luca, every decision from here counts. One wrong move and the empire is lost." The architect's traps activated simultaneously. Encrypted files were scattered across the mansion, false alarms rang, and subtle messages appeared, each presenting a moral or strategic dilemma. Luca's mind raced. He had to prioritize. Protect Dario from Adrian's resurgence. Navigate traps that could expose sensitive empire secrets. Keep Matteo, Isabella, and Elena safe from collateral damage. Avoid direct detection by the architect's omnipresent observation system. The architect had created a multi-layered moral labyrinth, where every correct action had consequences elsewhere. Luca paused at the first test, a file containing incriminating evidence against Adrian, designed to tempt him into exposing the villain prematurely. He realized acting rashly would alert the architect. Calmly he left the file untouched but created a subtle false trail, a decoy that would mislead both Adrian and the architect. Dario, observing through hidden mirrors, felt his chest tighten. Once again the boy had frozen him. He hadn't just passed the test. He had outsmarted adults, adversaries, and an unseen manipulator. Adrian, sensing a trap, confronted Isabella in the main hall. "You betrayed me?" he hissed. Isabella smirked. "Not exactly. I fed you exactly what you needed to see, and nothing more." The audience realizes Isabella's apparent betrayal was a clever ploy, part of Luca's broader strategy. Matteo intervened, blocking Adrian's path. "Sir, you've underestimated the boy. Every step he took was calculated. He's always 3 moves ahead." Dario, observing from the shadows, whispered, "The architect designed this chaos, but Luca is orchestrating it within it. He's controlling the uncontrollable." The architect's voice echoed, "Impressive, but now the final test begins. One wrong move and everyone loses everything." The multiple betrayals converge into a high-stakes psychological climax, where Luca must act decisively under extreme pressure. Luca's final test began in the heart of the mansion. Traps, alarms, and hidden observers threatened his every move. He had to decide. Protect the Empire's wealth or secure the lives of allies. Confront Adrian directly or manipulate him silently. Follow Dario's strategy or innovate independently to outsmart the architect. He paused at the central safe, recalling the moment Dario had pretended to sleep. That memory crystallized a principle in Luca's mind: actions speak louder than words, and moral courage outweighs raw ambition. Luca executed a flawless plan. He secured critical files without triggering alarms. He misled Adrian into believing he had uncovered weaknesses in the Empire. He subtly left signals for Dario and Matteo, ensuring their safety and positioning allies strategically. He avoided the architect's traps, outsmarting the unseen enemy without revealing he knew he was being observed. Dario, hidden but watching, felt the familiar chill of astonishment. The boy had done it, again. He froze Dario, not through confrontation but through sheer brilliance and moral clarity. The mansion fell silent. Every shadow, every reflection, every hidden camera seemed to hold its breath. Luca stood at the center, calm yet alert. Adrian was trapped in a web of his own making. Isabella and Matteo watched cautiously, and Elena observed from a hidden balcony. The architect spoke one last time, voice echoing eerily. "You've passed my tests, but the Empire's future is still uncertain. The boy, he may be the key. But can he survive the final revelation?" Dario stepped forward, finally breaking his silence. "Luca, you've frozen me. You've surpassed every expectation. But the architect isn't finished, and neither is the Empire. What you do next will define all of us." The story ends on a high-tension cliffhanger, combining the emotional weight of the hook with the overarching stakes of the architect's manipulations. Every choice, every action, and every moral decision is now critical, keeping viewers on edge and eager for the continuation. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. The mansion was tense. Every hallway, every room, and every shadow felt alive. Dario and Luca moved through the corridors silently, anticipating traps the architect had laid. Adrian had been contained, but his loyalists still roamed the estate, creating chaos. Luca stopped at a junction, carefully observing the patterns of guard movements and hidden sensors. He realized that the architect's final test wasn't just about intelligence, it was about leadership and moral clarity under extreme pressure. He whispered to Dario, "Sir, the Empire's survival depends not on brute force or fear, it depends on the choices we make now. Every ally, every enemy, every action counts." Dario nodded, recalling the first moment he had pretended to sleep. That test had revealed Luca's brilliance and moral courage. Now the stakes were higher, but the principle remained the same: watch, anticipate, and act decisively without being seen. Luca is now fully in control of the game, turning the architect's challenges back on the manipulator. Luca approached the central control room, where encrypted files, alarms, and traps converged. He faced his ultimate moral dilemma: secure the Empire's wealth, but risk the lives of loyal allies. Confront Adrian directly, possibly escalating chaos. Create a deception that could mislead the architect, but might endanger the innocent. He paused, recalling the first pretend to sleep test. Dario's eyes had been on him, evaluating him silently. The key wasn't greed or aggression, it was morality and foresight. Luca decided to create a calculated diversion. He used encrypted signals and subtle clues to redirect Adrian's loyalists away from allies while securing critical files and exposing traps. His actions were silent, unseen, and precise. Dario, observing through hidden reflections, felt the familiar chill. Luca had done it again. He had frozen him, not with fear but with sheer intelligence and moral clarity. Luca's decisions consistently outsmart adults and unseen forces without confrontation, leaving Dario awestruck. Just as Luca seemed in control, the architect escalated. Lights flickered violently, alarms blared, and a holographic projection filled the main hall. "Impressive," the architect said, voice cold and mechanical. "But intelligence without foresight is nothing. You have shown courage, boy, but can you protect what matters most?" Suddenly, hidden traps activated. Firewalls locked doors, mechanical gates blocked passages, and security drones hovered, scanning for intruders. Matteo and Isabella were trapped in separate wings, and Adrian attempted a last-minute rebellion. Luca had to act, fast, morally, and strategically. He used subtle signals, misdirection, and careful calculation to guide allies to safety, expose Adrian's manipulation, and secure critical intelligence, all while avoiding the architect's observation. Luca's moral courage and cleverness are the only shields against the architect's escalating chaos. The mansion itself becomes a living test of intellect and morality. Dario finally stepped into the main hall. His gaze met Luca's. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. "You've frozen me, Luca," Dario said, his voice low, calm, and full of awe. "Not with force, not with fear, but with intelligence, foresight, and moral clarity. Every choice you've made has proven you belong at the heart of this empire." Luca nodded quietly. "Sir, I only acted to protect the people and the empire. That's all I could do." Adrian glared from a distance, frustrated, his rebellion collapsing. Matteo and Isabella watched silently, understanding for the first time that Luca's brilliance had saved everyone. The emotional high mirrors the viral hook's impact. Dario is psychologically frozen by the boy's intelligence and moral courage. The audience sees why this moment is extraordinary. For the first time, the architect's holographic figure faltered. Its voice, usually cold and precise, wavered. "The boy, you may have passed all my tests. But remember, this is only the beginning. The empire is vast and the world beyond your mansion is filled with threats. One day, the real challenge will return." With that, the hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the mansion silent except for the hum of security systems and the whispers of allies. Dario approached Luca, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've not only passed my tests, you've passed the architect's. But remember, this isn't the end. The game is far from over. The story leaves the architect as an unseen, ongoing threat, setting up part 2 while keeping the hook in mind. Luca's calm, moral brilliance remains the central emotional anchor. The mansion gradually returned to calm. Adrian was neutralized, allies regrouped, and Dario's empire was secure, for the moment. Luca stood quietly in the shadows of the main hall, notebook in hand. He had proven intelligence, foresight, and moral courage. Dario looked at him with pride. "You froze me, Luca," Dario whispered. "Not through fear or force, but with your mind and heart. This empire, this world, may need you more than I ever did." Luca smiled faintly. "Sir, I only did what was necessary. The architect's tests will come again. And I'll be ready." Please subscribe to support our growth.